Hi everybody. A range of people have asked questions about the literature review, so I'm going to talk to you about that today. Firstly, it's a narrative review, and we can see that because here in the first line of the task, you're asked to submit a narrative literature review. Now you can go and have a look in the modules, and there's a paper in there by Grant and Booth 2009 that talks about the different types of literature reviews. Please go and review that, and that will explain what sort of literature review you're doing here. Okay, so what you're expected to do is look at some original research. So it can only be studies that other people have done. You can't use other reviews or clinical practice guidelines or anything like that. And you need to read and assess it and have a look at it and really analyze the studies to see what they're saying. So you're choosing a topic of your liking and you're writing on it, which I think, given that the majority of your assignments that you undertake are case studies, or you're given a topic, it's nice to be able to choose your own once in a while. Anyway, let's have a look at this. Okay, so the rubrics here, and we can come back to that a bit later, but I want to pop down to these presentation guidelines, which are under the rubric. These presentation guidelines are what should be followed for you to get the best marks you can. Firstly, you may use headings. Okay, that is what we are asking you to do, and that is in line with many of the journal articles that also have the same headings throughout their articles. So if you see here, they've got headings throughout here. Okay, so you're being asked to use the same sort of headings as what you would do as if you were reading it in a journal. We'll look at that journal article in a minute. So as per usual, you'll be asked to do a title page, like a normal title page. That's a separate page to your main paper. On the first page of writing, you'll need a title and some keywords under that title, and then a structured abstract with these headings in it. So you'll have background, aims, method, findings, results, findings, relevance to clinical practice, and conclusions. Now, you'll note that that is very similar to what you're going to see in here. Alrighty, now the keywords are down here at the bottom here, and you can have your keywords at the bottom. There's no trouble with that. Okay, but what we've got in this structured abstract is pretty similar to what you're being asked to do. The only difference is this has got design and it's integrative review, but you can put it if you like or not if you don't like, but because we know your design is going to be a narrative review, so instead of putting integrative review there, you're going to put narrative review if you choose to use that heading. But because we know the design, you don't need to put that if you don't want to. Okay, now the abstract is a cut down version of what is in your main paper. Okay, so what you want to be doing is writing your main paper first and then coming back and writing the abstract after you've finished or close to finished writing the main sections of the paper. Alrighty, that's important so that you've got good congruence between what's in the section, say, that says methods here in your main part of your paper and what is in the main what's in the abstract. So write it out of your main part of your paper, and that'll be better then. Okay, so first of all, you're going to do an introduction, and this introduction will generally introduce the topic and gives the reader a background and some information about the topic. Now that might be statistics and prevalence, that sort of information that you may not be necessarily going to be talking about in your review, but it's important to note. I've mucked up or I've done up a couple of some examples based on some online meetings, and I'll use them here. one person was looking at Down syndrome, and then out of that, I developed, this little outline on dementia and Down syndrome. Now, what goes in this background is the information about Down syndrome and dementia. Now, you may use other articles in that background section. What we want you to do is review 5 articles, but in the background section, you may, or background or introduction, you may use other references that you also must reference in the in your reference list, but you may reference these in the reference list if you use them, because you may, the studies that you have chosen may not have information about statistics and that sort of thing. Okay. Then you go on and state your aims and objectives for the paper. Then, and we'll look at some of those in a minute. We'll just go through the presentation section here. Methods, you are going to write how you effectively got your 5 papers. Now, if we look at some of these published ones, you're going to see that they're all pretty similar, and I'd like you to go and do this search yourself, because what you'll see is that they're all pretty similar in what they're finding. If you have a look here, search strategies, they're saying, they're talking about what they've searched and where, and you're being asked to do the same thing. Where did you search? Alrighty, you may use Google Scholar, you may not use just Google Web. Alrighty, and there's, so because the difference is Google Scholar's picking up academic papers. You need to put your keywords in for the search in the method section, and the inclusion and exclusion criteria for the search. What that means, the inclusion of criteria is what sort of things that you included. So for example, you would say that you included studies between 2010 2016, and you excluded all animal studies and non-English language studies. You need to discuss that the articles the journals that you have chosen articles from are peer reviewed, and you do that on Ulrichs, and there's a video on a screencast on that earlier that I put up for the critique. So please go and have a look at that if you're not sure how to use Ulrichs web. And remember, when you are checking if the journal's peer reviewed, don't put the article name in, you need to put the journal name in. So for example, this article here that we're looking at here comes from the Journal of Clinical Nursing. So that's what needs to go into Ulrichs web, not the name of the article. Alrighty, now in the latter part of the section you need to discuss the number of papers you retrieved and the rationale for inclusion. So why did you end up with the 5 that you've got? Now, articles do this a range of ways. Now, in this article you can see they've actually talked about it in prose here. They've said we found 1886 articles on I think I don't know what the topic is. Motivational interviewing, is that maybe it? On MI, and 28,429 on CBT. Alright, so in English language within the past 10 years. When we combine the terms, this came down to 206 articles. So you see how they're writing that. If you have a look at the figure here that these authors have got in this published paper here, it's quite a nice way to do this, and you'll find these sort of diagrams in published works. You can use this sort of diagram, or you can look up Prisma, and it's PRISMA, and that's all capital letters. If you Google that, it'll tell you how to put together the flow chart of this sort of description. Okay, so after you've done that and talked about how you got the papers you got to and why you've chosen them, that's really your method section, and you're going to come down to 5 studies, okay? So now you might end up with having 15 that you could review, and that last sentence might say the 5 most relevant were chosen to review for this paper. That's fine for this point. Now, the results section. Now, your results are demonstrating the 5 that you have obtained. Then you need to use a table such as this, where you put in author date, journal title, and methodology, and within the articles you will see what methodology they are. Remember, check in the abstract like you've been shown to do in class or online this whole session. Then, secondly, you are required to write a section in the results that outlines the major themes you found. So at this point, this is where you need to synthesize the themes. You may find 20 themes, but you can't write about 20 of them. You need to reduce them down to the most common things you find. So if you, for example, are looking at I don't know, new graduates. So the other paper that we worked up was new graduates working, the experience of new graduates working in rural and remote nursing, and I started doing this on an online meeting, and you'll find there's a files box in the online meeting website that you can go and download this PDF and the dementia and Down syndrome one. Okay, and I've written this section here for you to get an idea. Remember, you must remember that you still need to write your paper as per academic conduct and ensure you don't plagiarize. So I just had another little findings column here in the table, just to illustrate how you might be able to look at the themes and be able to start to draw them together pretty quickly. Now, I just demonstrated what need to go in there. I didn't put the title in, I said it on the online meeting, and I put the methodology in one, and you can see I've got the findings in here. Now, you would go on, and effectively what you're doing is you're listing the themes you found, and what you're doing here is finding similarities. So if out of your 5 papers you are going to draw them together and say, well, did I find anything similar? And the question you might have is, what if I didn't find a single similarity in my papers? Well, if that is the case, what I would suggest is that you have chosen papers that are not all addressing the same question, and that's important for you to do. Okay, so that's that section there, that you're just going to outline the themes. Now, the findings go on, and they discuss and analyze and synthesize the themes that you found in the other papers to a greater degree. So, for example, we saw in this one that I'd mocked up here, orientation support being challenged. Well, and when we looked at this Lee and Cruikshank article here, support was also came out. So for that section in findings, what I might have said if I had done that properly, if I was writing the assignment, is I might say something like, for example, the themes are support, blah blah blah. I'll go on and talk about the relevance of clinical practice in another screencast. Thank you.